I do have some strong opinions on pornography and on why you shouldn't date men who consume it regularly. And one of those, the biggest reasons, is that it literally forms different brain pathways than what you should have. Like, it rewires your brain in a way that it's very hard to like get it back functioning to normal. And most men will only realize this or start to like worry about doing anything about it only when their peen stops working. Okay, so ladies, when men quit watching pornography, I would love to sit here and say that it's because they are tired of seeing women, being, I don't know if I can say the word, but abused on screen, but it's not. It's mostly because their peens stop working. I also understand that some women watch porn. And that is even more disturbing to me because it's bad enough that men are watching such male-centered, male pleasure-centered content and not taking anything away from it, and women are forced to fake their pleasure. And the stuff that's happening to women is oftentimes painful, is oftentimes has long-term like damaging effects, right? And so what happens when women watch porn is they become accustomed to male pleasure being centered during the act, right? That act of what's supposed to be intimacy. And a lot of women watch porn because for different reasons than men do, because women are represented so differently in porn than men are, right? They are the ones that tend to get dominated or conquered or run a train on. I know a lot of people are going to be upset about this. It's fine. Y'all go do it some more. I don't, I can't help you. I am at this point, like, it's very little we can do about it because of how self and others destructive men are. Like, at this point, I'm not on here hoping to convince any man to quit watching porn because they have nothing else. A lot of them have nothing else. And they shouldn't even have that, to be honest with you. But I realize I'm not going to be able to draw them away from it. But just so you know, if as a man you watch porn, just know that you're doing the equivalent of sneaking around and hiding in bushes and watching strangers hunch with each other. And you're hunching over that with your peen in your hand. It's really sad. Really, really sad. Porn has no consequences. Okay. Watch it with spouse and reenact. That's disturbing. I don't know. The thing about porn too is that just like anything else that is so effective on your dopamine receptors, it's going to require more and more and more. And what is more in porn is more extreme. And so what you're doing is you're kind of like chasing the dragon, right? The first time somebody uses a hard, substance and they say inject it into their veins or whatever, that feeling right there is very difficult, if not impossible, to replicate. You will never quite have that same feeling again. That happens to a lot of men who start out. This is not religious. This is a channel for women. It's alive for women. My channel is for women. There will be men in here, but I'm not going to respond to y'all unless you're asking questions in good faith, to the point where I can't tell if you're a man or a woman, okay? What about women who watch it just as bad for them because they're learning to center male pleasure during the act of what should be everybody's pleasure? What if he started after his girlfriend cheated? Don't see what that has anything to do with it. Okay, there's a lot of questions in the chat. Thank you. People in general should not watch it. How do you vet for a guy that doesn't watch porn? So we have an episode coming out on this on Monday. It's going to be available to our VIP subscribers later today, but the episode will be out for everybody on Monday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and just anywhere you listen to your podcasts. Gwen made a list of all the signs of porn addiction. She has 38 different signs to look out for, and it's going to be a 2-part episode. So if you are looking to vet, and we're talking about regular heavy porn use, right? Again, I'm not going to be unrealistic and sit here and pretend with you like there are men out there that haven't seen or watched porn on a regular basis, at least at some point in their lives. Most men have, and some of the like smarter men have figured out just how harmful it is for them and just how much it's damaging their own brains and peens and everything else, and their ability to like even talk to women, you know? There's these subreddits, like NoFap subreddits or whatever, and that's one of the things they notice is they start being able to be more confident and like actually put themselves out there and like go talk to women. Stars Are on My Scar says my husband stopped watching and our relationship has drastically improved. Exactly, because he's no longer seeing you as a receptacle. To say it, put it nicely, I have to really watch my words on here. These men in their 30s really are struggling with ED now. Exactly. Because they have the death grip and they have like there's no shock value. So once again, to any men that are mad about this in here, I'm just once again explaining to you what you are doing when you watch as much corn as some of y'all watch is you are the equivalent of the town creep. And the fact that so many of y'all are proud and not embarrassed by your corn use, like mind-boggling to me. Because when I was growing up, when I was in high school and corn was like starting to become more easily and more freely available, the boys would have been so embarrassed to ever admit or to ever be caught being a gooner like most of y'all are. Most of y'all are not a single brain cell that hasn't been affected by this depraved, excessive corn use. And women can tell. And that's why they don't fuck with y'all. Thank you, Cassandra. My husband cured his ED by stopping watching corn. Yep, exactly. Are women who watch it red flags? Honestly, not to a man. Are women who watch it red flags? No, because once again, I'm explaining to y'all, women will not see themselves as an object that is worthy of receiving pleasure when they watch porn. They are not. We are not allowed, right, to do the same thing that men are. We're not allowed to be like, hang from a chandelier and F me sideways. We're not allowed to shame men for their peen size. We're not allowed to shame men for not being able to get it up. We're not allowed to shame men for not being able to F for hours. Because if you do that, unless a man is specifically paying you to do that, if you know what I'm saying, if you just do that out of the blue, you risk danger, you risk violence. And what most men perceive as schmecks is actually just violence. And most corn is just violence against women. So when women are watching corn, it's not a red flag to a man. It's just a red flag to the woman herself. Like, you need to stop. As a woman, if you're watching corn, it's not really about men or whatever. It's about you are learning to see yourself an object of abuse and not as an object of pleasure. Are toy users red flags also? How is it a red flag for a woman to use a toy when 80% of women don't achieve an O with y'all? How is that a red flag, right? It's disturbing when men have toys because their toys is like an entire like fake woman. Jane something 5000 with the removable, cum tray and like freaking realistic grip and, mouth. Like, y'all are creepy with it. What about the women that make it? You should do more research into that. You should actually read books by ex-corn stars. You should look into how women are coerced onto these sets, how women are promised photos, like they're hired for completely different things, and then once they get there and they're like, oh, we'll fly you out, we'll pay you to do it, whatever. Once they get there, the people are like, okay, so it's actually going to be like nude photography or like a nude video or whatever, but don't worry, it's like for a client, it's like very private and they're going to pay you like $3,000. So they showed up for a modeling or acting job. They did not show up for a pornography shoot, right? A lot of these women. Then these women are told, like, if you don't do what we're telling you to do right now, then you're going to have to pay us back all the money for the plane tickets, for the hotel, everything like that. It's basically an extortion scheme. But when you're 18, you don't know these things. But corn produces jobs for women. We should produce other jobs for women. And honestly, it'd be fine if corn was more geared towards women, we might be having a different conversation, but it's not. And again, a lot of men are upset about this. I'm not saying this. I'm doing you a favor. Y'all are mad about the wrong things, because you should be mad about the ED you're gonna have. Like, if you're like, so many men start watching porn when they are these days like 8 years old, 11 years old, by the time they get to high school, they have a completely broken brain and they can only finish with a death grip, right? Written stuff seems to be more evenly presented, yeah. And some men can't tell the difference between a romance novel and hardcore corn. They're like, these two things are the same, when they're very obviously not. How would I know this? I did my research, unlike you. Studies have shown that corn does not cause ED. Yeah, not corn, the death grip you develop while watching corn at the rate that I'm talking about. And honestly, it's going to be really difficult to find a man, once again, who is not watching it on the regular. And so, and you can tell, I can personally tell by men's eyes. Their eyes look dead to me. Their eyes there's just like no glimmer of life behind their eye. And so when they look at women, it's almost like it's in a very predatory way. It's like picture crocodile versus like a stag, like running around, like looking around like a horse or something, right? A lot of these corn addicted men remind me of alligators lying in a bog. Just dead eye. Yeah, pretty much always was against corn. It never seemed right to me. Once I don't know, like I have this thing, and I don't know if it's because I'm neurodivergent or something, but whenever I get stuck in like functional freeze, or like I need to sort of reevaluate how my day is going, I sort of like zoom out. And I've never played this game, The Sims, but it's kind of like imagining yourself as a sim. Like, wait, like what was I doing? Like, why did I come into this room? Like, what is the rest of my day gonna look like? And if I were to set my life on like a replay of like how my days went, what would the cumulative result of that look like, right? And so when I found myself experimenting with corn for the first time, like one of the first things that I really took me completely off that path was like zooming out and thinking about, how am I spending my time? Like if I'm watching myself, right? If I were to say pass away in the next 24 hours, how much of what would flash before my eyes would be memories of me sitting there like hunched over? Do you know what I mean? And so to me, that's just very cringe. Like to me, it's just, I always think of like that opening scene in Hercules, not the opening scene, but whenever that little Danny DeVito character is like in the bushes, like spying on the sirens or whatever. That to me is exactly how I feel about men that watch corn. Like you're just a creepy little disgusting little goat that's just like peeking through the bushes at other strangers hunching. It's embarrassing. I don't really care how you justify it to yourself. I don't really care if it I wouldn't care if it didn't affect your brain, right? I just think it's sad. It's sad to sit there every day like clockwork, right? And it's like your bedtime routine or like whatever. That's weird, guys. It's fucking weird. Man, woman, I don't care. It's weird. It's weird. If you depend on it like a drug, if you depend on it like a comfort, if you depend on it like one of those things. Mind you, the thing we're talking about is two strangers having schmecks. Two people you've never met. Your evolution, your brain was not built for this. Do you know what I mean? Kind of like people get office chair butt because you were never meant to sit on an office chair all day. You're going to get corn brain because your brain was not ever meant to watch strangers hunching all day. Does that make sense? I did change the word meant to anyone. I did. I'm just saying the reason that I find that men are affected differently by corn is because of, once again, how men are represented in corn. They are represented as the dominant conqueror, the main receiver of all the pleasure, whereas the woman is shown to be suffering but still like enjoying. And I think that that messes with both men and women's brains. I don't think that it's any better for women to watch that kind of corn, but I think if I was a man and I was watching porn from a man's point of view, the way that I would feel about women would be really disturbing. Just like if I was basing my views of schmecks based on what I saw in porn as a man, I would be terrible in bed, first of all. These men are terrible in bed. There's an article written about this that I'm going to quote, that's quoted in my blog. The blog comes out at 5 p.m. tonight on Patreon, but it's a Medium article by Emma Lindsay, and it's called Why Corn, but the real word, Makes Men Terrible in Bed. She talks about how when men watch porn and they see themselves, how they're represented, they start to misread and confuse cues of pleasure and pain from women. They also obviously couldn't care less about the woman's O. The woman is supposed to act like she's having an O the whole time, the entire time. Every time it goes in, O. Every time it comes out, it's another O. Like, and so when women watch that kind of porn, they're not the ones being like demanding in bed. Like, does that make sense? Like, women do not see themselves represented in porn as having agency, autonomy, or pleasure. So that affects men and women differently, which is why it's more dangerous for men to watch porn than it is for women. Because unless a woman is watching porn where male actors are getting gagged and choked and abused and, you know, gang raped and all this kind of stuff by women, mind you, by women, it's not the same if it's by another man, which there isn't a lot of that kind of porn. And even when there is, it's usually men enjoy that, right? Men pay women to do that stuff because to a man, at the end of the day, like, most of them could overpower most women physically. So it's not really a threat. Like, if a woman is like your dom, like, that's not really actually a threat. It's like a willing giving up of your own power, right? Women, it's very different. If I could have started my life all over, I would completely avoid men. And this corn issue, absolutely, James. And this corn issue is exactly why I always tell y'all, like, I got married a long time ago. I got married before this was so prevalent and so casual. It scares me. I would never go outside. You never know if it's really voluntary either. Exactly. It's inhumane. Yep. Most of them become addicted to it. Exactly. And they always defend their corn use by saying all men watch it. Exactly. It's never not all men when it comes to corn. They're like, yeah, but everybody does it. Like, okay. So if all the other men jumped off a bridge, that's what you would do too, huh? This is why I always say men are rank creatures. They are submissive, obedient creatures, as long as it comes to other men. If all the other men are doing it, absolutely. So is your man. So gross. Men who take the time to deconstruct the patriarchy have just as little respect for other men as us women who deconstruct the patriarchy. It just doesn't benefit most men to deconstruct the patriarchy, so they don't. Keep that in mind. They're just shrimp. They always prove my point in the comments. They always prove my point in the comments, Ari. For sure. Oh, thank you, Peppa. It's up on YouTube now, our Red Pill podcast. It's a corrupt industry. Many actresses are getting hurt. Exactly. Born to cheating pipeline is very real. Absolutely. Yes, I'm working on editing that last live. I had to edit the Dusty's pod first. Yeah, the pseudo child corn. That's what I'm saying. It literally is a slippery slope. Like, a lot of people will be like, oh, that's the slippery slope argument. Corn is literally a slippery slope. And I can tell you this as someone that grew up on dial-up internet. Like, y'all don't understand how much of a slippery slope it is. Because boys, when I was growing up, when I was in high school, boys, first of all, none of us had a fucking smartphone. None of us had a smartphone. Porn is cheating. I'll come back to that. Thank you. None of us had a smartphone. So we did not have that kind of easy access, okay? At best, your parents maybe had AOL dial-up or like the free dial. Porn films were like not even a thing. Like you couldn't even imagine, right? Like porn movies were something you, like your creepy uncle, your creepy, still single, 45-year-old uncle would go to Blockbuster for and go into like the little back room or whatever. And obviously there's a limit with that because it's not available at your fingertips, right? So many of us are already addicted to our phones in general. On top of that, porn is addicting as well. It trains your memory and your muscle memory. You're so used to it. You open your phone and like your thumb goes to tap the app that you most often use, even if you meant to open something else. So it's very easy, like even just having like your laptop be the main way that you could even access corn. Mind you, this was like after your parents were asleep. This was like late at night. Like no one had phones, right? And so even like that extra step of like, you have to go to a Blockbuster, right? You don't want to walk out of Blockbuster. There used to be shame involved. Do you know what I mean? And now it's just absolutely, there's no barrier, right? There's no barrier between us and corn. And if you really like look at it, if you don't automatically have your safe search settings on your phone and you type in like, what was it? I think they typed in something so simple, like literally woman. And you go to images and you're going to find like corn thumbnails. Like there's no safeguards against it. Corn grooms men and then men groom women, right? Corn, again, the more that men become reliant on corn to achieve a dopamine release, to achieve pleasure, all that, the more extreme that content is going to get. And so then when they get a girlfriend, maybe they're happy having normal schmecks for the first few weeks, but then they start to supplement that with corn, and then they start to imagine doing that stuff to you, and then they want to do that stuff to you. And then growing up in this corn positive, schmecks positive, you know, third wave feminism or whatever, you're also told like you have to be cool with it. You have to, cool girls are fine, perfectly fine with corn. Cool girls watch corn. Cool girls act out the stuff that they see in corn. None of that is normal. Y'all need to understand. People back in the day were not doing what the equivalent of what we're doing, right? No one is wired exactly to watch this at such a rate of consumption. It's just not okay. So does the same apply to girls reading dark romance? I knew this was going to be a popular question. In dark romance, there are no actresses getting hurt. There are no actresses having their holes like exploited to the point where they're no longer able to properly use them without surgery or removal. Or y'all are acting like women wanting their man to pin them up against a wall and turn his hat backwards is the same as men watching women literally like gagging, throwing up, categories like penal, categories like teen, categories like father-daughter, category. Do you know what I mean? How the is that the same? If you like 50 Shades of Grey, then you're a red flag. Yeah. Because men always think this is a red flag because that guy's actually rich. Virginia Woolf ended up with a woman because she's done with men. Do you think being a lay dollar bean is the solution? I think that Virginia Woolf ended up with a woman because she liked women to begin with. And if you think that being a lay dollar bean is the solution, then you probably are not straight to begin with. That's probably just heteronormativity that's been dripped into your brain. You could never convince me that I'm actually deep down attracted to something I'm not attracted to. Because I'm attracted to men, I'm actually closer to aschmexual than I am to homoschmexual. And that is because I deeply know this, I'm straight. What if a female is the one who's getting tired and wants to try new things? Again, I would only encourage that because that levels out the playing field. And you should view that as a sign that like your woman actually feels safe with and that she actually has any hope of even achieving like an O with you or having a good time with you. Because most women, they know that their man would not try new things for them. They are afraid to ask. They don't want to hurt his ego, things like that. So it's like if your woman wants to try new things with you, that could actually be a positive sign if you're into it, if you're willing to explore it. But I'll tell you the same thing I would tell everybody else. If you're not comfortable with it, or if you feel like your partner's corn use is like so bad that it's becoming a red flag, you should leave. Man or woman, I don't care. I think it's weird for anyone to do it. I think it's especially weird for women to do it. It's internalized misogyny taken to like the next level. If you're watching the kind of corn that most men are watching and making popular. Sure, you could be watching different kinds of corn. Again, I just struggle to see how doing something that is unnatural, watching other people in what should be a vulnerable and intimate and safe setting, I just don't see how that benefits your life at all. Man or woman, I don't care. I could never feel good about myself on any day if I spent hours of it watching porn. And the fact that so many men are just so casual and matter of fact about it should be your first red flag of like not to date any of them. Do you know what I mean? Like they're not even stopping to think. They're like, all men do it. Okay. But you're not stopping to think about how weird and creepy it is. It's weird and creepy. Weird and creepy. I'm gonna say this over and over again. I don't care if you're a woman. I don't care if you're a man. It's weird and creepy. If you really stop to think about it. Also think about the fact that like it's normalized and that it's so easily available to you. That means you are the product. Men will say this about everything except for corn. They'll be like, if it's free, then you're the product. And then you're like, what about corn, bro? And they're like, nah, not corn, not corn. Men are visual. Men need corn. All men watch corn. It's pathetic. Someone said, to be fair, there are a lot of men on TikTok with anti-corn TikToks. Absolutely. And that's great. I would love to see a single one of them that actually stopped because it was like harmful to women or because they like respect women. All of these dudes, all these no-fap dudes, their peen stopped working and they got concerned. They got concerned. So don't take these men too seriously, ladies. Like just because a man is like anti-corn, that doesn't mean he doesn't watch corn because he respects women so much and because he cares about your pleasure in bed. He'll probably still want to do weird shit in bed, honestly. Yeah, men are visual just shows how they don't understand their feelings and have no inner world. If men are visual, why do most of y'all look like shit all the time? 90% of the time. Women will say this, like every time you go outside, you see so many beautiful women left and right. You see beautiful women with makeup, without makeup. I don't care. Beautiful women. How many beautiful men do you see on a regular basis? You're lucky if you see like one a month. Men are not visual. They look at themselves in the mirror and they don't brush their teeth and they don't trim their nasty pubescent beard hairs. They don't wash their ass crack. Like, how are they visual? How are they visual? You ever seen like a bachelor's apartment? Oh, I need a woman to make this house a home. I don't know. I thought you were visual. They're only visual when it comes to schmecks and things that put women in vulnerable positions. They're never visual about other things. They're never visual about seeing what needs to be cleaned in the house. They're never visual about watching their kids. They're not visual about, taking notes about things. They're fucking stupid, honestly. And they think we're stupid. That's the most insulting part, is that they think we're stupid. And the other most insulting part is that a lot of women choose to be pick-me's and choose to be like, yeah, men are visual. That's why you have to watch corn with him. Shut the fuck up. Ruining everybody's life, I swear to God. What do you think about books with abuse towards women that women read? It's the norm for women too. Absolutely. But again, you're not flipping the table. Obviously that's bad for women. If these books were books about women abusing men, then we could start talking about how women and men are the same thing. How romance novels and violent porn that men watch is the same thing. Then we could talk about it. But the abuse is always towards women. So it doesn't matter. Men who are like, what about women who watch porn? Bro, don't even worry. It won't affect you. She's going to be more of a pick-me. She's going to be more of a people pleaser. What do you mean women who watch porn? Women who watch porn don't go out there and then shame men into getting a dick pump. Women who watch porn don't go out there and shame men for being a 2-minute pump and chump or whatever. Yeah, again, I'm very, very, very happy anytime that we level out the playing field somehow. That's why I love Samantha Jones on Schmecks in the City. I love female characters like that. Not because she has schmecks with a lot of men, but because she cares about her own pleasure and she does things that bring her pleasure and she shames men who can't get her off. So that's that part, right? That part. My vibration is too high to be watching porn. And that is what some of y'all really need to tune into, is the low vibration that corn really sits at. It doesn't matter if you're a man or a woman. It doesn't matter if you think it's good or not. Think about the vibration that it sits on. Yeah, the same problem with those robots or AI women they buy. Did you see what they do with them? Terrifying. Exactly. This is all the outpouring is really of misogyny. And these things, just to be clear, these things don't cause it. They confirm and normalize it 1,000-fold. Again, it used to be that if you had to watch porn in your room in the dark at night, peen in hand, just beating off, you were considered a loser. You were not considered just any guy that's out there. It was shameful. There was shame involved. And now there is none. There is none. And ladies, you should be scared. I would be terrified. I can't believe any of y'all are going out on dates. After seeing the statistics of how many men watch porn and how often most of them do it, it's over. It would be over for me. Porn never sat right with me. The fact that like anytime porn has been, the internet has been given to like a country that hasn't had like technology, or like a tribe, I should say, not a country, a tribe that hasn't been exposed to technology or the internet, the first thing that happens is all the men get addicted to porn. So you should already know it is unnatural. It is gooner, pathetic ass, loser ass behavior. And again, I don't care if you're a man or a woman. If you are watching porn and it's like your source of comfort and your source of dopamine, you are a gooner. Porn is not teaching you anything good about yourself, actually, as a woman either. What about the women that make porn or OnlyFans? Are they winners? No. Male attention is not that hard to come by. So the only thing that they're doing is just proving how desperate, easily swindled out of their money so many men are. The fact that these women are raking in millions every year should just show you how much of boomers and gooners most men are. It's literally easier for them to pay for a subscription than to learn some focus, self-discipline, anything like that. Most men know nothing about focus and self-discipline. And let me tell you something else. I forgot to come back to porn is cheating, and I will, but let me tell you something else. A lot of these men, the most pathetic part about them is that they're losers because of the porn. Your schmexual energy, the reason personally I don't watch porn, is that your schmexual energy is the way that you get things done. We as humans, the drivers that we have, right, as part of like our survival interface. And once again, this is why I'm not talking to men. Most men cannot comprehend what I'm saying right now. So ladies, lock in and ignore the trolls. What you have as part of your survival interface, the things that sort of make us tick every single day, the things that motivate us, the fears even that we have, all of those things are there because evolution deemed it necessary at one point in time. The reason that children are scared of things under their bed is because humans used to sleep in trees. And so it is actually like so many kids are afraid of that because this turned out to be a really good survival tactic mechanism. And the reason that so many people have survived and adapted and like done all of these awesome things is because they were not wasting their schmexual, that drive, that energy that we sometimes even confuse with schmexual energy. They were using that to survive. That's your survival energy. That puts you in fight or flight when you're watching porn, by the way. It puts you in a state of like this adrenaline rush. And that adrenaline is something you should be using to make yourself care about other things, okay? So ladies, this is why men who watch porn are useless. This is why they'll never have a good job. They'll never make that much money. They're never going to be that good in bed. They're never going to be that interesting to talk to. They're using their get it done energy to hunch over two strangers or multiple strangers having schmecks. And they even go as far as to pay for it. So they're never gonna have the money to be a provider, to support a family, nothing like that, because they feel satisfied, right? When they beat one out to some corn, they're like, oh, yeah, good. You know nothing about discipline. You know nothing about self-control. You know nothing about focus. That's why you're a red flag, right? That's why. It's not just because you watch porn. It's because the energy that goes into that is energy that you should be using to better yourself, to go to the gym, to work out, to read a damn book. Most men don't know what that is. They don't own a book. They own a box of tissue because they know nothing. I repeat, they know nothing about self-discipline, focus, or self-control. And in fact, they call this healthy. It's very healthy for you to not care about anything else in life because that you know that you can just come home and whack one out to some woman and some man that you've never met before. That is so weird. That is so weird. And it's not healthy, I promise you. Whoever said that corn is healthy is a literal crazy person. Maybe if they meant like, I don't even know in what context it would be healthy, actually. Use your imagination. Use your imagination. And if you don't have anything to go off of, then you're not like old enough. Like I can't. Like read a book. I'm telling you, read a book. People talk about having schmecks in books all the time. And that way you can actually use your brain. Getting to how corn is cheating. Corn is cheating because how okay would you be if you found out, if your like best friend or someone or some random woman sent you a hey girly message, but the hey girly message was, I caught your boyfriend spying on me and my boyfriend having schmecks. I would be infinitely more creeped out by that than an actual hey girly message. Yeah, men who are defending it, we can tell, all right? We can tell. We can tell you watch it. We can tell you and your wife watch it, I promise you. That's why you don't have two brain cells to rub together to put some like actual words in the chat. I can always tell when a woman is responding versus a man because y'all all sound the same. That's all. And so yeah, just so you know, we can tell. We can tell when you're a gooner, and we can tell you have no life force left. That's why you're not at the gym right now. You're not at work right now. You're not building society right now. You're not inventing nothing right now. You're in here arguing with me about something that ruins your brain and your life. Enough said. That's why I'm like, don't come up here. I have nothing to say to you. You literally would rather hurt yourself than listen to the voice of reason. Like, I can't help you. That's evolution working. That's just evolution working. You defending your corn use, that's evolution making sure that your genetics do not find their way forward. Because you're so easily thrown off the track of life, the track of actual reality. And I cannot stress this enough. You are not living in reality when you consume corn on a daily, regular basis or for several hours at a time, you know, every other day. You are not living in reality. What about people that produce corn, do eggs work and or script? It's presented to us in this third wave boss girl feminism, the schmecks positive movement, as winning, and I don't think it's really winning. I do think it's, once again, it's a fine way to make money because men are desperate. And I don't think, you know, to me, like corn or schmecks workers, it's kind of like, do it if you want to do it, but most ex-workers will tell, like, they will not advise this life path to other women. They'll be like, if you can do something else, do something else. You know, so that should tell you everything you need to know. Corn work, schmecks work, it never centers your pleasure as the woman. Again, unless some man is somewhere out there is getting off on that, right? That's what it is. As for what this means for your sons, y'all, I don't know. I can't. It's something that you got to start talking to them about at like 8 years old. Like, there are resources. We'll give y'all a name. I will warn you though, she is not SW positive. If you can separate that from the overall message, I think you could still gain a lot of insight. But Gail Dines, and she has a website called culturereframed.org. Gail Dines, Culture Reframed. Go ahead and check that out. That has some resources on how to talk to young people about it. And that's all I gotta say, because it's so prevalent, it's so widespread, and even if you forbid your child from having a phone, computer, etc., they're gonna come to school and other boys are gonna show them corn. I promise. What about women who have corn addiction? It's like even sadder to me than the men who do, because you're not even getting off on a woman's pleasure. You're getting off on a man's pleasure. You're getting off on very male-centered activities. So it's not teaching you how to pleasure yourself. Yeah, and these brain-dead Coomer men, this is all they can talk about, you know? That's it. This is all they can talk about. I can talk about girls who watch it for the last father fucking time. They are not watching men being abused on screen. They are not watching men gag on objects. They're not watching men throw up and be forced to eat it. They're not watching men being abused by women. They're watching women being abused by men. Okay? And they don't even feel comfortable enough shaming y'all the way that you shamed them. So women who watch porn very rarely come home to their boyfriend and be like, have you ever tried a dick pump? Have you ever tried those dick enlargement pills? The way that some of y'all will come to your wife after you watch some porn and be like, you ever thought about a boob job? You ever thought about lipo? You ever thought about a BBL? Women don't come to y'all with, oh, you should go get plastic surgery on your peen to make it bigger. Women don't come home to y'all after watching porn and say, oh, you should try that little blue pill because you don't get really that hard and you don't really last that long. Women don't talk about, oh, you can't fuck me for hours like these male porn stars. Women don't come home talking about where's your six pack and your 10-inch schlong. So that's why women who watch porn are not a red flag, because women who watch porn are not receiving the same messaging as men who watch porn. Yeah, and a lot of men are like, how can you not watch porn? Like, whatever. That's what I'm talking about. It's so easy not to watch porn when you're not a gooner. Easy to not watch porn when you still have a properly working brain, okay? When your brain pathways are not just so absolutely destroyed. Your dopamine receptors are not so fried that you can't even comprehend a life without watching strangers have schmecks hunched over your little laptop in your dark little sad little room on your mattress that's on the floor. Hours at a time, just nothing up here. Y'all are so uninteresting. Y'all are so boring. What am I supposed to do if I can't watch porn? That's where the problem starts and ends with y'all. Uncreative, no self-control, no focus, no discipline. Do some push-ups. How about that? Every time you want to beat off to porn, do something else instead. Even for the skeptic men, try refraining from it and see how powerful you become. And I don't care if most people disagree with me. Most people disagree with me on a lot of things. That's what I mean. It's like most people disagree with me. Look around at most people. If you find yourself agreeing with most people, that's why we're all in trouble. Like, again, most men will look at that and be like, most people disagree with you. Where is your critical thinking? Seriously. Find it for me. I'm not old enough to give advice. I'm 33 years old, so I think I'm old enough. I've been around. And again, I've been around to watch porn unravel. It happened in front of my eyes. Like the moment, I feel like it was like when I turned 15 or 16. And it's been this slippery slope ever since. And I'm telling you, every year it somehow gets worse. Every year, things that people come up with is worse. First we had the VR headsets. So now you can really immerse yourself, right? You can really step out of reality. Do y'all understand? Like, this is what I'm talking about. So you can step out of reality, peen in hand. What are we doing? Right? You got a POV, you got, now you got Schmeck's robots. Schmeck dolls, AI chatbots. Where does it stop with y'all? And that's what I mean. It's a slippery slope because men don't have self-control and they don't have critical thinking. They look right, they look left. The other man has his peen in his hand. This man has a peen in his hand. We all got our peens in our hand now. Where is your critical thinking? This is why y'all do so well in the army, in churches, anywhere that you just got to look around and do everything that everybody else is doing. That is where men thrive. I swear to God. That's where men thrive because you have to have two brain cells close enough to each other, mind you, to rub them together. And that's called critical thinking. But the porn addicted men could never understand. How do you find a man who don't watch it? I don't know. I was dating 15 years ago, y'all. Still, there were men who were, like I said, borderline addicted to it, like right away. As soon as like high-speed internet was a thing, that's when I noticed it in men. It really is. It's as soon as high-speed internet became like accessible and like normalized, that it just started going downhill really fast. And yeah, most people are exposed to it as children regardless. That's the other thing, is that most people, that's the pipeline. You are going to be exposed to it as a young child, most likely on accident. Sometimes it's a creepy uncle or babysitter or something like that, but you're going to be exposed to it as a child. And the part that follows is very important. The part that follows next is, what is your level of accessibility to it? You to really, go down that rabbit hole. And for most people these days, for most children these days, there is no barrier in between them and free porn online. A lot of parents just give their kids a phone. Yes, it has parental controls and all that stuff, but a lot of parents don't utilize that. They're like, oh, I trust my kid. Let's go, Sovereign. What's up?
I came in at exactly where you said, just beating off, and I've been literally crying in tears the entire time.
Oh my God.
Oh my God. I'm like, what did I walk into?
I'm trying to promote our upcoming episode.
Oh yeah, the one where we talk about men who watch corn is a flaming, burning red flag. Yes, yes. You know what I'm looking at? The people so you got so many trolls, men and women in the chat, is because they are guilty of watching corn, and they don't want to be seen it's forcing them to have to look in the mirror at themselves, because they know that they fit the description of being a weirdo. And it just is what it is.
They're mad about it.
They're so mad because you wouldn't be mad. You know what I mean? If it didn't apply, you would let it fly, and they're not letting it fly because they're guilty. I remember reading a study about this some years back when I was in college, and it was saying how the reason why corn is so detrimental to men's brains is because it's kind of like when people start doing smugs, like I can't say the word, drugs, they usually start with like something that's gateway. They'll start with something like that, and then they'll graduate to the stronger stuff, because after a while, those little highs don't get you high anymore, and you have to graduate to, the harder smugs, right? And so when it comes to corn addiction, it's the exact same thing. So, if you look at regular missionary man and woman type stuff, you start out like that, and then next thing you know, you're into all of the weird, like the weird kinks and fetishes that a lot of guys have. And so when they actually get with real women after they have seen the most depraved sexual acts, it's almost like it doesn't work anymore, because now you need like this really strong sense of attraction to whatever depravity you've been looking at. It affects your normal relationships, because you're going to get with women, and women are just normal. Women don't want to do this or do that or whatever. And so the study was just saying that over time, it would just rot a man's brain to the point where it's going to affect his personal life.
We see proof of this everywhere too. Like looking around for men, they're not right.
And they get to a point where they can't please themselves. They absolutely can't please you. Yeah, they don't really understand it, because I think a lot of men, they just care about instant gratification.
Exactly.
They don't do any inner work.
Exactly.
They'll just jump right. It's almost like guys that don't want to do foreplay. They just want to jump right to it, because they literally don't see you as a human, see you as a sex object that they just want to jump on. They don't care about your pleasure. They don't care about your foreplay. They don't care about anything. It's like, I want this now. I don't want to wait. I don't want to do this, and I want you to do that. And they wonder why women are like going their own way. What's the point? If you're not going to be satisfied, if you don't care about a woman's satisfaction, and what's the point in doing it? Now they have to. Their only options are these sex robots, and they wondering why. That's why women don't want to be bothered.
Yeah, and it has been a slippery slope, like I was saying, because men don't know what self-control is. They don't know what discipline is. It has been a slippery slope, and now we're getting into pseudo PDF file. We're getting into we're making schmex dolls that resemble children.
That is horrible.
And that's a red flag. And people are like, but at least they're not harming real children. I just don't we have lost the plot.
But honestly, I believe that they are. They just haven't got caught yet.
Exactly.
That's just my own personal thing.
But my thing is, how is it actually different than from assaulting a child? Like, we have this saying, if it walks like a duck, quacks like a duck, looks like a duck, then what is it?
It's a fucking duck.
It's a duck.
Yeah.
That to the next conclusion. Like, how is it different?
Here's the thing though, even if they're not actually doing it to the child, as a woman, you should still be equally disturbed because now you know that that's what he wished he was doing. He wished you were a child. He hopes
could do it
he,
to a
he
real
goes
child.
to bed with you and pretends and fantasizes that you are a child. That should make your stomach turn instantly just knowing that that's what he would prefer to be or what he would prefer to do in and of itself. It doesn't matter if he's not actually doing it.
And if it was legal, that's what he would do.
Yes, absolutely. They tell on themselves all the time.
Yeah. So it is a slippery slope because men don't know when to stop. Like, the only reason that, you know, you normally wouldn't want to use a slippery slope argument is because we usually think of ourselves in society as we owe each other something, right? And that's why, like, the slippery slope argument is like, you know, when people try to apply it to like the LGBTQ community, it's like, okay, you know,
Yeah.
there's like people are fear mongering sometimes. With corn, we have seen the slippery slope become, you know, like I was saying, there's absolutely no friction. There's no barrier between a child and the most depraved corn on like that ever exists. A lot of this stuff is free. And so you can find the weirdest, most depraved, most awful things for free. There's no paywall, there's no age, you know, wall or whatever, except for in some states. And we've watched that slippery slope turn into just open doors. Like, floodgate has been lifted, right? We started with, you had to go to a Blockbuster and go in the back room. You had to, you know, buy a magazine and like hide it in your grocery bag. Like, there used to be at least a little bit of shame associated with it, a little bit of a friction, a little bit of a barrier. And now we're to the point where it's like, no, it's just a free for all. And men will look around and be like, oh, well, all the other men do it, so I guess it's fine.
Yep. Society has made it like okay, and I think it's because the thing that women don't understand is that the reason why they make this stuff okay is because it's the vast majority of men. If this was like a small group of men, they wouldn't have to go to such extremes to make it normalized. You get what I'm saying? Like, it's because it's so they know the nature of other men. They know it. And that's why everything is catered to and coddled around them. Like, even with the whole rolling back our rights thing, they're doing that because in their minds, that keeps men under control if they have something to do, like have a wife and kids or whatever. That's why they're trying to force women to stay stuck in marriages and stuff. They understand that this is most of their nature. And so instead of helping them, which I think they know that most men can be helped. Yeah. That's why they're doing all of this. That's why they have all of this stuff that's happening. It's normalized. They normalize the most depraved things that males do because they know it's in most of their nature and they can't contain it.
Absolutely. And they know that if they were to leave these men to their own devices, it would just cause chaos. People always forget too that like before the 1929 crash or like the Great Depression, there was like all these street gangs. It was because women were not marrying men because women were like flappers at the time and like they were like going to work and like making their own money. It was the exact same thing that's happening right now.
Yeah.
And so they had all of these zoots gangs because there was so many single men that did not know what to do with themselves. And so the government is really just keeping the men at bay in a way, but I'm also concerned because they are banning access to corn in some states. And so I feel like they're trying to like set the chaos free a little bit so that they can justify then being like, oh, we had to do this for the men. We had to, you know, I don't know.
Even in those states that are trying to ban it, I don't think it's for the right reasons, honestly. I think that they think that if they ban it, it's going to force men to only focus on women and bring families back together again and blah, blah, blah. It's not going to do anything. They're not going to, there's no way they can really ban it as long as people have access to the internet. Exactly. Or, you know what I mean? There's no way.
There's always workarounds.
There's always going to be people sending you stuff, you know, like those undercover PD file rings, they trade photos of children back and forth. So even if they were to shut it down, are they going to shut down your ability to get text messages or emails? No. So there's no way that they can actually do that. But it's not for any other reason other than to stop men and try to control men and keep them, keep them tamed by having a wife and kids and something to wake up to every day. But yeah, it's not going to do anything.
Exactly. Yeah, they can still access it, and if anything, it's gonna make it like worse. Like the
Worse.
activity around it is gonna like increase, and people are gonna start making money off of it. It's gonna lead to a different kind of like pimp culture for sure.
Absolutely. Like the profits are going to quadruple.
Yeah, like there's gonna be people walking around with the jackets, like they open their jacket, like some shit.
Oh, exactly. Yeah.
Because like men are gooners, I'm telling you, like gooners. Like you're not taught to really take hold or control of your life. You're taught that somebody else is gonna like come and do everything for you. So why wouldn't the same apply to schmecks or corn, right? It's like, yeah, I should have this. I am entitled to this. Well, if you're entitled, guess what? That just means you don't have self-control. You don't have discipline. You lack focus in life because you're entitled.
Did you say men with cats creep you out?
Now they do. Now they do, because why does every man have a cat all of a sudden? That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
That's all it takes for men is like, oh, men are getting cats. I'm gonna get a cat.
Yeah, that's what
They're gonna think I'm safe. And it sucks because every time I see men post about their cat on the internet, it's like there's something wrong with your cat. Men will be like, this came out of my cat, and it's very clearly a worm. They're like, oh yeah, I looked over and saw this on my laptop, and it's people are like, your cat has worms.
Oh, I haven't seen any of the. Oh wow, really?
More of the animals, yes.
I'm wondering how. Listen, now I want to know how the cat got the worm, and I'm gonna be looking at what are you doing, sir? What are you doing to that poor cat? But a bunch of women in my comment sections were saying, now I feel bad for the cats. And I'm like, right. Because what they think is that once the men find out that having cats and doing cat content is not going to fool women into thinking that they're better, because that's all they're doing it for, in my opinion. What are they going to do to the cats in retaliation? Because if they can't treat human beings, women, children, each other like humans, we know that they will harm animals. Yeah. So there's growing concern for the cats now. So it's like, why are y'all getting cats? Like, and I'm actually mad about that because to some degree, if it can tame a man and make him feel less lonely just to have something there, that's fine. But if they start harming the cats, that's going to have a negative effect on everybody because cats become feral and become, they hiss at you and stuff because typically it's because they've been done wrong by a human. Some human somewhere in their past abused them or scared the shit out of them or whatever. And that's why they are very, where they can be very aggressive. But typically cats, you have to gain trust with them. But I'm thinking, I really think that a lot of men are, harming cats or will harm them. And that's just going to make cats distrustful of human beings in general, that's going to suck. So on one hand, I feel like they're infiltrating the cat lady spaces. Like, leave our cats alone. Like, why are you bothering the cats now?
And mind you, they've already done this to dogs.
Yes.
Those dogs that you're going to find at a shelter, it will say is wary of men. It will say is afraid of men.
Wait, what now?
No, yes. Everyone I know that has adopted a dog from a shelter is like, oh yeah. Be careful because it's like afraid of men or whatever.
Yeah. I seen something like that. It was saying that
so crazy, and so now it's just going to happen to cats.
That is so terrible.
Because men have historically, associated cats with like single women, so they have not like owned cats, but now they're gonna start doing the same thing to them that they have been doing to dogs.
The good thing about cats is like the cats will fuck you up in the worst way. If they feel harmed or feel threatened, I think even more so than a dog, honestly, I'm being honest. Those cat claws, listen.
So
they fuck you up even when they're not trying to. So imagine when they're trying to. So a lot of men will probably harm cats and they'll get their karma instantly. Mm-hmm. Some of them will, That's the only thing that's giving me.
The dog is still gonna like try to please you even if you're mean to it. Like, it's really sad.
Yeah.
Dogs will still try to act nice, but cats will just straight up hate your ass. But I just don't see how that's gonna stop men from harming the cat.
It's
They'll
not.
they'll be like, oh, the cat came for me first, so I had to unalive it or whatever.
Yeah. Do you what is the worst fear of animals in the wild? Is the sound of a man's voice. Wait, is that true? Is that true? I wouldn't be shocked.
I would not be shocked either, honestly. Oh, all right. I gotta drive my dog to the vet. So,
He said, "Hey, he said this page is a red flag. Somebody deleted it.
for men, period. I
We're
keep
gonna
trying to tell
delete
them,
it.
I'm like, I'm not talking to you.
I know, right?
I don't care about y'all. Y'all will watch porn until you have not two brain cells left to rub together. Why would I care about what men think? Like, I'm so sorry. Why would I care?
Realists believe the realists agree with you. He said, as a man, this is valid.
Again, yeah, men who deconstruct the patriarchy, I said this earlier, but men who deconstruct the patriarchy have just as little respect for other men as we do. They're like,
That
yeah,
is so true.
gooners.
So
Like,
true.
and thank you to my mods that have been muting with fire. Y'all are the best. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
All right, girly.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, thank you for popping in, Sovereign.
Yeah, I'll hit you later.
Yeah, catch you on the next one.
Okay.
Bye, y'all.